Hello everyone. Today we will discuss on ajax in web programming section. What is ajax? Ajax stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML. It means that it is a combination of JavaScript and the XML section. Ajax is not a programming language. Ajax is used of combination of a browser to build in an XML HTTP request object and the JavaScript with HTML DOMs. Ajax is a developer dream because it reads the data from the web server after the page has loaded, then upload web page without reloading the page and send the data to the web server in this background section. If you are a user of Facebook, then you already have know if you are chatting with someone when you send that in message to another one, then you don't need to refresh this page. This is how the Ajax works without refreshing or reloading the page. Here are some advantages and disadvantages of Ajax. The difference between Ajax and JavaScript are given here. It is the server-side script language, but the JavaScript is the client-side one. This is the server and this is the client version. This is the remote request, and in JavaScript it the remote request to the server section. Ajax minimize the overload, and it can be used to install thousands. Ajax sends request to server and does not wait for the response time. So those are the difference between JavaScript and Ajax. This question is very important for your examination. You can have snap of one. In this diagram, we can understand how the Ajax works. By this diagram, you can see there are two sections. One is browser section, another one is the web server section. Here, in this browser section, you have XML HTTP request, which is callback, and in this presentation section, you send first the HTML or CSS data, and after presentation, you have the JavaScript call. First, you have the JavaScript call in the callback section. Then you generate the HTTP request to the server in section number 2. In section number 3, which is in the server side, and here in the business logic section by PHP and servlet, you have the data exchange with the data storage, which requested by point number 3 and point 4 retrieves the data, and then the server sends the data to the callback function by section number 5 with XML data. And then finally the callback function sends the HTML and CSS data to the presentation layer. That's how the Ajax works. This diagram is also very important for examination point of view. Have a snap of this one. Here are some points on Ajax. You can go through them. What does the XML HTTP request? It sends the data to the background, receives the data, and updates the data without reloading the page. In this section, we will also discuss about PHP and MySQL. Those all are server-side language, and MySQL is for the database. PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. It is an open source language and this works on the server side. It is free to download, and this one is an interpreted language. These scripts are ASP or JSP. What are the common uses of PHP? They can generate dynamic pages, create open read data and files. They can collect from data. They receive and send the cookies in the in the client section. And PHP can add and delete modify data in their database. PHP can be used to control the user access, and PHP also encrypts the data. Here are some points of uses of PHP. You can have a snap of one. What is escaping to PHP? First, you need to know about PHP tag, which is this one. The short open style for PHP is like this. The ASP style tag looks like this one. And HTML script tag looks like script then language is PHP, and inside you can write your language. How many ways you can embed PHP code in HTML pages? Here we can see that this one is an HTML page. In heading section we are now in the title, and here we have written echo then the title. Echo works as the printf function in programming C. We can put PHP code between the brackets and question marks, like as this one. After echo we have write hello world. This hello world will be printed. Instead of that you can write PHP echo hello world. You can also write it as like as script language PHP then echo then hello world then closing script. What are the characteristics of PHP variables? Here we have discussed about the characteristics of some PHP variables. First of all, you need to declare the variable name, and for declaring the variable name you need to the dollar sign in the starting position. Here we have a, which is a variable which contains the value hello, and here we use the dollar sign in front of a. You can also use underscore. This example is very important for exam point of view. Here the variable for single dollar and the double dollar. Single dollar is the normal value, but the double dollar refers the value. That means in this section you can see that in single dollar section you have ABC, and in double dollar section you have 200. Now echo the single dollar x means it prints the ABC. In echo double dollar x it will print the 200 value, but if you write the dollar then ABC, we have already discussed that double dollar value is for reference the variable. That means if you use the single dollar then ABC, the ABC is already refers to the dollar $x. So in this section instead of $x we use the ABC section. That's why the last echo prints 200. Here are some points and rules how to declare variable in PHP. Here we have discussed about PHP constants. The syntax of constant is to constant then the name. Here we have discussed about the parameters return value and error sections. For example, here we define the minimum size which is 50, then the echo minimum size. and then lastly we have used equal, then constant, then the min size. Same things as previous line. That does mean this line, the output of this line and output of this line are the same. Here we use the constant factor. Now, the for each loop. This loop is very important in PHP. In for each loop, we have array as the value. In this code, you can see here, first of all, after that PHP, we use an array which is color. And then in the array section, we have four colors: red, green, blue, and yellow. And here we have used this loop. In this loop, you have used firstly the color, which is the name of the array, and then we use as the value, and then echo the value, and then br for breaking. So first the value is red in the index. Right after that we have the green one, and then blue and yellow. That is how the for each loop works. This for each loop is also very important for our examinations. Have a snap of this one. Now, associated array. Associated array means we need to define array by the name keys. That means associated array are arrays that use name keys that we assign to them. In this section, the array is age. In the array section, we have pattern, which is for Peter for 35, Ben for 37, Joe for 43. By this index, you can see if we call Peter, then it will 35, and so on. In this example, we first declared the array as this. Then echo Peter is dot and call the age, which is 35. If we use here the Joe, then we will get 43 in the output. That is how the associated array works. This is also very important. Have a snap of this one. How will you redirect the page in PHP? By using in header section, we use the URL to redirect the pages. Now, the numerical array. In this numerical array section, we use the numbers, which is the name of the array. Then array we call numbers 1 to 5, and by for each loop we use the numbers of the value and printed them. Those can be used as the second method where indexing is used. Those all have done the same work. If the index based on the number section, then the array is called the numeric array. Rand function is to define the general and random integers in PHP section. Here we have the minimum amount and the maximum amount. The minimum amount is default 0. How you can display a download dialog box in PHP? The code is given here. Now we are in the send via post method. The get method is to receive the get method in PHP provides the get associated array to access all the sent information using the get method and receiving from the post method. Here we have done some works with the cookies. Now, what is the purpose of request variable? In this request is used to collect data after submitting an HTML form. Here in this section we have the $sign server. The request method is post. That means it is getting data from the server. That's how it works. Here we type your name and then press the submit section. How we start a session in PHP by session start section. This difference between include and require is very important for your examinations. Include function takes one argument, but in this required function it provides the similar functionality as include function but takes one argument, path or name of the file we want to include. In include section it is not stop execution, but in require it found an misname and stop the execution. In include file there is used the loop section, but here we cannot use the loop. The syntax of include file is to include then the file name, and required is for required the file name. By this example we can easily understand about them, how the require and include works. In include section it can return the value, but in required it cannot. Have a snap of this difference. How will you access the error code associated with the file uploaded by PHP? Have discussed in some lines. Here we use the server variable. In the section echo, then the server variable is used. Now we are in the MySQL section, which is related with the database. And in this section we have used the SQL section. Here SQL required to query and create the database, and the connection is not to specify the last open connection by MySQL connected will be used. Now in the section of MySQL I is the name, and then we have used MySQL I, then the localhost name, username, password, and created database. In this result section you will have the output from the database. For this we use this code. Here we have the MySQL, then the query is select the last name from employee section. Here are some other queries for practicing MySQL with PHP. In PHP section we created here MySQL, then connect, then localhost username and password, then MySQL select database and the database name to select the database. And from this section we can have a result by select the last name from employee section. How will you create an object in the PHP? Here first we created a class which is car. Then in car function this model is VW. Then we created an object by, here we have created the name and then new the car function. That is how we created an object and show the objected properties by this code. Here are some examples of object and call functions. Overriding means to write something over on it. Suppose your parents have fixed something for you and you don't want to do this on your parents' decision. They want you to study in the medical sector, but you want to read in the engineering sector. So if you go with your passion, then this will the override function. This question is another important question for your examination point of view, which is the difference between echo and print. Both work in PHP, but in this section echo is faster than the print section and it prints more than one string and variable, no written value, and can take multiple arguments. Here are some examples of codes between echo and print. Outputs are same here, but there are some difference like this. Explain the different type of loops in this PHP section. We have already discussed about while loop, do while loop, for loop, and for each loop. This loop is very important in PHP because it uses the block of coding for each element in an array. The examples are given here for while loop, then the do while loop, the for loop, and finally the for each loop. We have already discussed about array in PHP. There are indexed array, associated array, and multidimensional arrays. Index array is based on numerical index, associated are based on the name, and multidimension means 2 or 3 dimensional arrays. Here are the example of associated array. And the multi-level arrays will look like 2-dimensional arrays which works like this one. Here we have 2 dimensions. We have already discussed about PHP sessions. A session is a way to store information in a variable to be used across multiple pages. How the session is used, their syntax and everything is given here with the example. Here are some points about get and post method. You can go through them for your examination point of view. Here are some description of post method. The difference between get method and post method is very important for examinations. Have a snap of this one. That's for today. Thank you.